Today we are going to be sewing the Quilted jewelry roll-up bag. This is from Brooklyn Made on Etsy, and I'm going to be showing you how to put together the print at home pattern as well as assemble the bag. So let's get started. I have the written instructions right here and the print at home pattern as well. You don't have to print out your instructions. I just like to have them on hand. You can also pull them up on your phone. You of course will need to print out the pattern, and I'm going to show you how to assemble it. You can begin by printing this test page, and then using a ruler you can measure out this box and ensure that the scale is in the correct size. Looking at our pattern, we have rows horizontally 1 through 3, and vertically it's A through C. So we're starting at A1, and we're going to use these diamonds over here to help us put the pattern together, and you will need tape for this. Okay, so on this one, A2 to A3, we see that there is a gap in between both of these triangles. I'm going to trim off this one, and then we'll be able to lay them closer together. Okay, I've trimmed it off, so now when we lay it down, it perfectly aligns in that diamond. Okay, now we have the first A1 through A3 done. So we are going to move on to the next row, and we know that it's the next row because it says B1. So we are starting on the next row. We are just going to line this up with the lines in the pattern, like so. And we can tape right there and keep on going. When everything is taped together, you are ready to cut it out. Just cut along these solid black lines. Let's do an inventory check of the pattern pieces we have cut out. We have 2 tie closures, 1 large elastic pocket. We have 2 of the regular pockets that will become 1 pocket. We have 2 earring cushions that will become 1, 12 inches of elastic, and then we have our 2 pieces of the main body and our 2 pieces of the necklace loop. I decided to use 2 different fabrics. You could do the whole thing with 1 fabric, but I decided to do the main body and the ties as one, and then all of the rest as another, just a nice solid white. And both of these are linen. This is a white linen, and then this is a strawberry linen. I wanted to mention a couple things when looking at the instructions. First, we have a fabric legend right here, and the first one you're going to see is the right side. The wrong side is the solid gray, and then batting is this kind of fluffy white color. So you'll see those throughout the pattern. You can print in color or you can print in black and white, and you'll still be able to tell the difference between each material. Anytime you see a dotted line, that is a straight stitch, and then anytime that you see this kind of wavy line right here, that is going to be a zigzag stitch, or if you have a serger, it's going to be a serger stitch. Another thing to note when you're looking at the print at home pattern, it is going to tell you how many pieces to cut. So on this earring cushion, it says cut to self, which means cut 2 of the main fabric that you're using for this piece. And then of course batting is just batting. You can use any weight, and you can also adjust the level of fluffiness by adding as many layers as you want. But whenever it says self fabric, that just means the main fabric that you're using for the project. We are starting with pattern piece number 4, and I have just pinned both pieces together. And we're going to use a straight stitch all the way around, but we are going to leave a 2-inch gap so that we can flip it inside out. Once it is sewn all the way around, you're going to find that 2-inch gap that you left and turn the whole thing inside out. Once you have it inside out, we are going to iron it flat, but with this open end right here that we use to turn it inside out, make sure that you just tuck that in to match the rest of the seams, and then iron it flat, and then we are going to top stitch whenever it's on the main body piece. Okay, next we are taking our long elastic pocket pattern piece, and we are going to zigzag stitch or overlock stitch on one edge, and then after we do that, we're gonna fold it under, and then fold it over again. And then we're gonna straight stitch and create a channel. Okay, now that I have done a zigzag stitch on the edge, I'm going to fold it over by 3/4 of an inch, and I'm gonna iron it just so it's nice and crisp. And then I'm going to place pins right along the bottom of the fold. And then I'm going to use a straight stitch right along that end, right here. And that is going to create a small channel where we will be able to thread our elastic through. Now it is all pinned, and we are just gonna sew a straight stitch down the edge. Yay, okay, so we have sewn the channel. You can see right here, there is a small opening. So we are going to take our 1/2 inch elastic, and this is 1/2 inch, and it's 12 inches long. And we are going to put a safety pin on this end and then thread it through this whole channel. And then that will be the next step in our elastic pocket. We have the elastic threaded through this. So we're gonna start on this end, and I'm just gonna do a couple of stitches to get the elastic stuck. And then I'm going to stretch this as I sew. I'm going to sew right in the middle of that channel. And as I stretch it, the elastic will attach to this channel. Now we are going to work on pinning and sewing our pockets into place. So I have the elastic pocket along the bottom edge of one of the main body pieces with the right side facing up. Okay, so I've already placed it in the middle and pinned both edges, but since there's elastic in this pocket, it obviously has a little bit more room and it doesn't line up exactly. So we need to make some pleats in the fabric and pin those into place. So I'm going to make 2 pleats, and they're kind of already falling into the pleat shape. So we're basically going to make a V. We're going to take the excess fabric on one side and lay it over into the middle, and then we're going to do the same on the other side, like so. And then we are going to pin that in place. And it's going to look a little bit messy right here, but it's okay. We're going to sew that and you won't even be able to see that. So I'm going to go ahead and pin both of those. It kind of makes like a V with the pleat right there. And we're going to do the same thing on the other half. And I have the middle marked right here. So after marking the middle, you're going to do one of the V pleats on the left side and one of the V pleats on the right side. So we already did it to the left, and now we're going to do it to the right. I'm just gathering that up and pulling it over. Okay. Sewing on the pockets, the seam allowance is super tight. It's as close to the edge as possible without running off. However, right here with the pleats, you're going to have to do a bit of a wider seam allowance just to allow for all of this messy pleating to get sewn correctly. So it's okay to have a bigger seam allowance on this very bottom of the pocket, but everywhere else you want a bit of a smaller seam allowance. Now we have both of the pockets sewn on. I love this part because this is really where it starts to come together. So yeah, both of the pockets are sewn on, and both of the center straight stitch is sewn. Now both pockets are complete, and we are ready to move on to sewing the tie closures. Okay, now we have our 2 tie closure pieces. The right side facing up, we are going to fold it in half so that the wrong side is on the outside. And then right here on the first end, we're going to sew a diagonal line. Then after that, I'm just going to sew all the way down. And then when you get to the other end, you can leave that end open, because then I'm going to take this loop turner. You can also use a safety pin But yeah, after it is sewn, I'm going to take the loop turner and turn it inside out to where the right side is facing out. We are done with the tie closures. We are going to take the second main body piece, the one without the pockets, so we'll set the pocket one aside. And we are going to take one of our side ties and sew it to the middle of this. And to find the exact center, we're going to fold it in half, including the tip of this triangle. And I'm just going to make a little crease with my finger. And then I'm going to fold it in half the other way, make a little crease. And where those two creases meet, so right there, where those two creases meet right there, I'm going to take my side tie and the open edge, so not the one where we sewed at a diagonal, but the other one, I'm going to fold that raw edge down, and then I'm going to fold it over again, and I'm going to pin it right here in the center, and then sew it in the center. Okay, now this tie is attached to this main body piece. I'm going to flip it over, and now we are going to cut the batting. I'm just going to cut around in this shape. You can also use the pattern piece, or you can use the main body piece that you already cut out. And now I'm just going to pin it into place, and then we'll take it to the sewing machine and do a straight stitch all the way around. After you sew all the way around, then just cut off any excess batting that you have. I like to cut my batting a little bit larger than the main body piece, just so I have a little extra room, and then afterwards you can always just cut off the excess. Now we're going to work on quilting the bag. So I'm going to make some guide marks on here so that it makes quilting a lot easier. So I'm using my yardstick. You can use a ruler, whatever you have on hand. Here at the bottom, I already measured out every inch, and I'm using, this is like a corner turner, so like when you flip things inside out, but I'm also using it kind of to make indentations. So I already made some here at the bottom, every inch. So I'm going to keep doing that, but I'm going to go all the way the length of the main body. So now you can see that slight indentation right there on the fabric, and that will just help guide my sewing. Now we have these guide marks, and we are just going to quilt down every single line and avoid obviously sewing this middle tie. You can kind of just move it out of the way with whatever side you're sewing. The quilting is done. It looks beautiful, and now we are going to move on to the necklace loops. Okay, taking the necklace loop pattern piece, we are going to fold it in half. If your fabric has a pattern, make sure that the right side is facing in, so it's the wrong side out right now. And then we're just going to sew straight across, straight down, and then leaving this end open. Okay, now we have both loops sewn. I just trimmed down the excess a little bit. And now I'm going to take my loop turner and turn them inside out. I'm going to do that to both of them. And then I'm going to sew a straight stitch down each side. Now I have both of my earring cushion pieces, as well as a piece of batting to match the size of both of those. And the way I'm going to sew this is I have both of the fabric pieces stacked on top of each other and the batting piece on the very top. And I'm going to sew all the way around, but leave a small gap to be able to flip inside out. One thing to note, if you are using a pattern fabric, make sure that the patterns are facing inside, that they're kissing, and so when you turn it inside out, it'll be right side out. Now we have our gap, and pulling the two pieces of fabric apart, not the batting, we're going to flip it inside out. I'm going to use my corner turner to just get in there and push the corners out. Again, you can use like a dull pencil or a capped pen, something kind of with a point, but that doesn't break the fabric. And then after everything is turned completely inside out, I'm going to push the opening in, kind of like we did for the first pocket, and then sew a straight stitch all the way around. Now we have our necklace loops sewn, as well as our earring cushion, and I have pinned them into place. So just a couple notes on pinning them into place. These necklace loops measure 2.5 inches from the very outside edge on both sides. And then the earring cushion is directly in the middle. So you take the center point of the top and align that with the center of the cushion. And then the necklace loops are 1 inch above the top of the pocket. And the earring cushion is a little bit smaller, but you can just align it with the top of the necklace loops. So once those are all pinned into place, you can sew a straight stitch right here at the top. Yay, we are on the final stretch. This is the last couple of steps. So the next thing we're gonna do is prepare to sew it all together. So this is a super exciting time because you get to see everything come together. So we're going to take our second tie closure, and with the raw end, we're going to stick that out just by about 1 inch at the top. And this is very important. This is a mistake I've made before. Do not have the tie up like that, because remember, we're going to turn it inside out. So we need the tie to be on the inside, just a little bit sticking out. Now this is also the time, if you use personal tags, to add your tag. I like to add mine on the bottom of this. So again, we're having this face inside, and I'm going to be conscious of where I'm sewing it. So remember, we have a straight stitch down here at the bottom, and I want to make sure that my tag is not right at the edge of the fabric, because that's most likely going to not be seen. I'm going to move it forward a little bit, and again I'm going to face it on the inside. And I also am going to be conscious when I flip it outside what side it's going to be on. So we're actually going to flip it over like that. Okay. And you can put your tag anywhere, but I just like to put mine on the bottom. And then we're going to take our second piece, and I'm going to kind of roll the tie up so it doesn't get in the way of sewing. Honestly, the same with this, just kind of like make sure it's not close to any edges that will be sewn. I'm going to place that upside down on top, just like that. And then the first two areas I'm going to pin are the tag and the tie at the top, just to make sure those are secure. But then I'm going to go around and pin all of the edges. The gap that I'm going to leave to turn it inside out is going to be up here on either side, but the top, because down at the bottom there's big bulky pockets. Right here on the sides there's pockets, and right here at the top there's really not anything. So I like to leave that side open so that it's a lot easier to flip. Definitely give yourself a good amount of room. I would suggest 3 inches, just so it's easier to flip inside out. So I'm going to go ahead and pin the whole thing. Okay, now for my personal favorite part, getting to flip it inside out and see it all put together, almost complete. So let's flip it inside out. So now all that's left to do is the top stitch all the way around, and I'm going to try to get as close to the edge as possible. So, and this will just help it lay down a lot flatter. But yeah, she's looking really good. A tip for sewing this finishing stitch. So first, with our gap that we made, we're just going to tuck that in to match the other seams, and we're just going to be sewing right on top of it. But for all of the other seams, it's pretty thick, of course, with the batting, and then especially here at the bottom with these gathered pockets. A lot of the times the seam wants to kind of push in and hide, and of course we want it as bumped out as possible. So just a little tip here is to kind of roll your fingers back and forth along this seam, kind of like this. And that is going to push this inmost seam as out as possible. And I'm gonna kind of do this right now, but then I'm also going to do it when I'm sewing, just kind of right before it hits the needle. I'm just going to kind of rock the fabric, the seam back and forth like this to really get it as out as possible, as flat as possible, just since it is so thick. We want to make sure that those seams aren't getting hidden and sewn on top of. Okay, we are down to the final few stitches. And we are complete. So now, of course, we're just gonna go through and snip all the little threads, and then we're done. It is now complete. After snipping all the threads, you are ready to go. And my tips for rolling it up is to roll it up once right above the first pocket, like so, and then roll it up a second time, and then that leaves just enough space at the top to fold that half over, and then now you can tie it off into a bow. And it is the perfect companion to travel with, or if you just need a cute place to store your jewelry. It's perfect. I also like to use that as on-the-go sewing kit if I'm doing a little project in the car or on a plane. It is perfect.